I just want to introduce you a little bit to what we are doing today in the webinar, what are the various aspects of what we are looking at, and then we'll run you through each of these one by one. We have a number of guests who will be joining us on and off through the program, and we are looking forward for you to interact with all of them as well. Just a few things to keep this webinar as productive as possible for everybody. One is that please feel free to ask questions on the chat. Right, you will all have access to the chat screen. You will have a button which you can just click on to get into the chat mode, and you can type your questions there. If you have a specific question for a specific speaker, you can put it over there saying for Niranjana or for Richa, and you can put your question over there. We will also pause and ask you for questions in the middle, but as you keep typing questions, we'll try and take them on as we go ahead. Right, so that's one, and the other one is just to keep yourself on mute in the meanwhile, so you know, it doesn't interrupt with others, which everybody is doing in any case. So wonderful. So we have a very big agenda today. We have a lot of things to cover. You know, this is a biannual webinar that we do where we try and give parents.
You want to hear? It's for both of us, yeah. जब घूम ही रहे हो.
Yeah. Guys, just keep yourselves on mute unless you have something to say specifically to us. Thanks so much. Right. So like I was saying, we have a big agenda to cover today. You know, we do this biannually where we provide an overview to students and parents who are now exploring career options and college options, and sort of get them started, you know, about it and get them to start thinking about it. Usually we have a very nice long session, and then we have an informal interaction and some, you know, great food. In the online world, we're doing this completely online, and we're trying to therefore keep it a little brief so that it doesn't take too much of your time. So we should wrap up by about 12 or latest by 12:15. You would already have the agenda, what's happening when. Thanks so much for joining us as it is relevant to you. So three big things that we're going to cover today. One is that we are going to look at STEM and non-STEM options, right? Because I think that's a sort of a question in the minds of both grade 10 and even grade 11 students when you're looking at what courses to take in school, then you're looking at what courses to apply for, and you're sort of wondering whether you should do this particular course or that one. How much does STEM matter? What impact does it have on you? And we'll also look at what impact it has on you across countries. So you have a little bit of an understanding of this, right? As we speak about it, please feel free to ask your specific questions over there. Then we'll be looking at life post-COVID a little bit. You know, those of you who are not familiar with our backgrounds, you know, so I'm a career counselor. I've been working in career and college guidance for over 14 years now. You know, and I've written a book called The Ultimate Guide to 21st Century Careers. And in the process of writing a book on post-COVID careers, which has led me to a lot of research on what's available for parents and what's available for students. And I've sort of tried to put together some of that for you to understand what does the world post-COVID look like from a career perspective. It's a very happy picture. Honestly, it's not something to worry too much about, but that's another thing that you can look at. And lastly, we'll be looking at different countries, right? So we'll first look, like I said, at STEM and non-STEM and what's the difference between them. And then we look at the three leading destinations, right? So briefly, for those of you who would be aware, you know, what STEM really means is science, technology, engineering, and maths, right? And what non-STEM sort of refers to is humanities, performing arts, social sciences, visual arts, and lots of other such areas. Now at Inomi, we work with students in a very dedicated way to help them find what really works for them, what works absolutely perfectly for them, rather than try and push them in any one area. So I'll also give you a little bit, a brief introduction of what we do, so you have an idea where we are coming from. So we are an organization called Inomi. We are a self-discovery based organization. So the name is pronounced as I know me, meaning I know myself. So I know people say Inomi, which, you know, I keep correcting sometimes even clients that no, it's I know me. So that's what we are. We're a self-discovery based organization geared to help you, and you're geared to help students find what's right for you and find a path for that. So while we're looking at STEM, non-STEM today, we are not doing this to say that you should be looking at STEM careers only, but just to give you that overview and the picture. We'll go into greater depth of this in a little while. Okay, then we'll be looking, like I said, at post-COVID opportunities and how the world has changed post-COVID. I'll give you some depth on this. And then we'll be looking at 3 leading international destinations. One is, of course, the United States. Then we'll be looking at Canada in depth, and we'll be looking at UK in depth, right? So these 3 international destinations we'll be looking at in depth for you to get a little bit of an idea of what's out there, right? Like I said, as you please feel free to keep putting in questions. Simran, if I miss any questions, then please do. Yeah, we will be sharing the recording link. Sandeep has been asking. We will be sharing the recording link. Yes. Simran, if I miss any questions, please just WhatsApp them to me so that I can see them in case I miss the chat.
Sure.
Thanks. So we'll also introduce you to some members of the team as they come up and they speak about it, about their little bit, right? So let's start with this whole thing about STEM and non-STEM options, particularly in a post-COVID world, right? So like I told you, I'm in the process of researching for my book on post-COVID careers, and I'm looking at what's possible and what's the world going to look like. And when I see that, I do see that, people keep talking about a V-shaped recovery. Everyone's talking about a V-shaped recovery in the economy, but the general idea is of a K-shaped recovery, where what they're really saying is that some industries really go up and some industries come down, right? Which is why the K-shape, right? Some things go up and some things come down. So here I'm going to show you what the trends are and what's likely to go up and come down, right? Okay, so now, let's look at what's going on really in the world, right? So one big thing, if you see, is the fact that there is a ongoing digital transformation, right? Like everything is online, right? And, if you're not online, then nothing is really happening. So that's one huge thing that's going on. Just a moment, please. Okay. So then there is the fact that, since there is this huge digital transformation and everybody's doing everything online, whether it is education, whether it is buying stuff, whether it is exploring stuff, reading, entertainment, everything is online. So now a lot more data is being captured, and there is a sort of a data overload in industries, which is something that all industries are facing, which also is a very big trend for you to be looking at, what can happen. Then, of course, there is automation. We all knew that there was automation. We've been talking about automation and how that's going to transform industries, and some people will lose jobs and new jobs get created, etc. And now, because a lot of manufacturing setups are closing down, you can't really get a lot of people in a closed space together. So it's given a push to automation and to Internet of Things. So much things that you can do remotely, what can be done without human touch and human interaction, whatever can be done in bodiless, less touchless sort of economy. So automation and IoT already was a huge trend, and this whole COVID scenario has given it a big push. Of course, a vaccine hunt, that's given a big push to biotechnology research, etc. Healthcare, there's nothing to not see about the fact that healthcare is really at the center for all of you who are interested in that area. Then, of course, there is this whole need to handle money and finances. That's a very huge transformation that's happening, not just because technology is changing with all finances being, fintech, so many online payments, so that, the role of a bank is really reduced, the role of an accountant is really reduced, but also because it's an environment where people have to rejig their finances, right? You need people to figure out how to get money, how to do more mergers and acquisitions, because some smaller companies are now merging with larger companies.
Richa, we've lost you. Richa, we've lost you. So sorry, actually, Richa's lost internet, so she's just rejoining. Okay, Richa's back.
I'm so sorry. Bad internet connection here. Right, I'll just share my screen again. Yeah. So, were you able to follow?
All
And growing. Then, of course, online education. Now, one expects that there will be a huge transformation in the whole education area, both in schools and in higher education, because as schools realize that a lot of things can happen online, the quality of the content that you provide online changes. So you need a lot of people who are creating that content online, right? Again, a lot of higher education can now happen online. People realize, and so the whole structure of how degrees are structured, and how some things can happen online. Can you make some degrees cheaper? What degrees are really worth it for people to pick up? So a whole churn is expected over here, but definitely a huge push towards edtech. Now, of course, a lot of people are struggling emotionally, and you need therapists, psychologists, etc., to help people cope with change, to help people cope with the negative change, positive change, help people cope with the change in technology and the fast rate of growth. Then, of course, there is a huge workforce realignment. So, human resources people to sort of realign the workforce and to see, people are being fired, certain people need to be reskilled and retrained, people are being restructured in different ways. A lot of the gig economy has come up. So, you take people on contract basis. How are those contracts structured? How do you manage quality and performance in a contract and gig economy structure? So, that's another role that's really growing. And then, of course, fashion has, of course, taken a little bit of a dip immediately post COVID, but it started going up again because now people are saying, okay, so how do I look when I work from home? How do I look in this new COVID environment? Fashion is an evergreen thing. It doesn't really go out of style. And in a new world, one expects that there will be a new look at the whole world of fashion. Then, of course, there's work from home. We know work from home is a very big trend, and that impacts your structure of the office, the structure of the home office. So we'll come to that. And of course, the fact that they don't. There's so much that you can do: UX design, cyber security, artificial intelligence, machine learning, network engineers and programmers, because everyone is really expanding the way computer science had expanded at one time. So the expectation is really that those who are specialists in data would really be able to do a lot, but data isn't just about looking at math. It's also about communication. It's also about creativity, but that's one huge area that people can look at building careers in. Automation, of course, leads to a lot of engineering, automation, IoT. Of course, we are going to come back into a world where we are traveling around a lot, so a lot of transport re-engineering. So, particularly if you look at mechanical and electronics engineering, that's really likely to expand and become huge. Right now, of course, the vaccine hunt leads us to the investment in technology research and pharmaceutical research. Those students in college, chemistry, and in research, and who are looking at slightly more intense environments where they can work in labs and really be a subject for a long time. This is an area that's really expected to grow. Then the healthcare explosion, of course, leads to healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists. If you look at, anybody who's doing microbiologists, even people who are doing planning, finance, and restructured companies, covering companies. So, finance is, of course, a huge area that is expected to grow, but in a new way. Then again, the social impact sector, like we said, since the social impact is huge, and now we are entering the non-STEM aspects. You've got people who will be interested in fundraising, those who have skills for marketing and fundraising in the social impact sector. Often in that area to really be a water science specialist or an environmental science specialist or a public health specialist, right? Filmmakers, writers, media managers who are creating the content strategy for online media. That's another huge expanding area. Online education and study from home has opened the door a lot to tutoring. So, a lot of tuition companies, such as, companies that were preparing you for entrance tests and who had a limited market, let's say Delhi, Gurgaon. Now, suddenly with the world going online, their market has hugely expanded because now you are doing online tuitions with Jakarta, with Bangalore, with Trivandrum, because, suddenly once the world is online, it doesn't matter where you are. So this is actually another hugely exploding area, whether it is edtech, whether it is, home tutors, whether it is instructional design, because, in an online education world, instructional design is huge, content development, instructional design, the use of film in education is really growing. So, special educators, there's a lot that can be done over there. Psychologists, therapists, counselors, alternative healers. Psychologists would not just actually work in therapy and counseling. With the whole artificial intelligence world coming up, a combination of psychology plus, let's say, computer science, or psychology plus math can really get you to work with artificial intelligence, to work with computer scientists, to build, your chatbots, to build robots, that can, that are human safe. Often people are looking at artificial intelligence for education. So how do you make artificial intelligence human safe for educating young kids? So there's a lot that you can do with psychology beyond therapy and counseling as well. Then, of course, there's human resources. Like I said, the whole workforce realignment leads you to human resources, which used to be a sort of a support function, taking a very hero's role, looking at organizational redesign, recruiting the right people, looking at how you can create gig economy contracts with people, because you're taking people on contract basis and project basis, and of course training and coaching people for handling the world in an online environment, which is expected to stay, right? Fashion, again, goes without saying. Fashion designers, fashion managers, people, fashion technology, people who are helping manage the retail interface of fashion, and sort of analyzing that data, increasing the eyeballs and the and the traffic on a fashion website. Work from home is here to stay. Definitely there's news all over. The Economic Times just yesterday had an article saying work from home is here to stay for the whole of 2021. And as people realize that, a lot of people can work very productively from home, people want to work from home more, and companies want people to work from home more, which means that the rise of the flexible office, right? An office that's more like a co-working space where people can come and share office spaces because they're coming in maybe twice a week or maybe even once a week, and people creating home offices. That combined with Internet of Things is expected over the next decade or so. There would be an explosion in architectural and engineer and interior design projects to rejig our workspace and our living space to this new world of work from home. And of course, given the fact that we are all into retail therapy just to survive, and also because we don't want to go out and buy stuff, so we buy everything online. Of course, there is a huge demand for people who are into digital communication, digital branding, digital marketing. How do you understand the online world, and how can you support clients to do digital marketing, right? So this is sort of like, an overview of what's really expanded to grow, what's really expected to grow. As you can see, what really works is to have a lot of comfort with technology, even if you're looking at non-STEM areas, right? And having said that, there is a lot of growth possible in non-STEM areas. So at no point are we suggesting that people should be looking primarily at STEM areas alone. So let me ask you, since we've been discussing this for a while, what is it that you guys are looking at, and what courses you're possibly looking at? So I've just launched a poll, and you can respond and tell us what courses are you looking at. Parents, students, you can respond to this, please. Can you see the poll?
Richa, are you sharing the poll? I'm not able to see it.
People are responding to the poll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can see it as well.
Okay.
About 19 people have responded. I'm just waiting for a few more people to respond. I can see most people are looking at business. I see business, psychology coming up as the two most popular courses that people are looking at. Okay, so I think most people have given us a response, and we'll just share results with everybody. So if you can see, this is what we are looking at. Business is the winner really, and a lot of people come for business, and really looking at business across different destinations, and we look at the potential over there as well. And then the next big one is psychology, and the next big one is computer science, right? No, marks for guessing that one. I had thought computer science and engineering would be higher, but if you add the two, then that's 56%. So, we are really looking at a lot of people.
Psychology also being at
psychology is
43.
clearly a number two.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks so much for sharing your ideas. And of course, what exactly is right for a student is something that we do an intensive session, one-to-one session. We do a 3.5-hour session with each student who we work with to help them understand the options available, to do some self-discovery tools, build a long list, bring it down, bring a short list of career options, and we kind of help them create a flow chart saying this is my primary option, this is a backup option, this is a long-term option. But it's good to know what is roughly what you're looking at right now. Okay, so moving on, I want to introduce Kritika. Kritika, if you will just introduce yourself briefly. Kritika leads a lot of the counseling at Inomi, and she'll be taking you through the undergraduate destinations in across the world.
Right. Hi, so I'm Kritika Malhotra. I've been working with Richa now for the last 3 years, and I lead a lot of the counseling. So a lot of the applications, processes, and where and how to apply goes through me. So the top 3 destinations that most of our students are applying to are US, Canada, and UK. So we thought we'll just do a little country comparison to make it easier for you guys. So in the US, as you can see, the cost of attendance can really vary, right? Because you can have an Ivy League school which is at $65,000-$70,000, and you can have a state school which is much, much lesser, right? So in the US, it can the cost can really vary. Also, you should understand that in the US, it's the one place where you have the maximum availability of scholarship, right? So in the US, actually, you can get the maximum amount of scholarship is possible in the US, right? Again, also cost of living varies depending on, if you're kind of away from the city, or if you're in a city like New York or San Francisco, then obviously that's more expensive. As for the visa after a degree, which is one of the most important things, in the US, the students get a 12-month OPT, which is a 12-month optional practical training. So that means the student, once they finish their course, they can stay back for a year, even without a job, to just search for a job, right? However, students that take STEM subjects, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, then those students get a 3-year stay back. Richa, I don't know what's happened to the screen.
I don't know who someone's annotated on it. I don't know, maybe we should have disabled annotation. I'm not quite sure what we can do about it. What should I do? Wait, let me just put it on another slide. You carry on speaking, I'll put it on another.
Okay, fine. All right. So, right. So in the US, you get, so if you're a non-STEM student, you get a 12-month stay back. If you're a STEM student, you actually get a 3-year stay back. All right. When we come to PR and citizenship, right? So obviously anywhere it's a long process for PR and citizenship, except Canada. Canada is relatively easier. So in the US, it can take 10 to 15 years to get a green card, right? However, what happens is that once the student finishes their 12-month optional practical training, or during that time, the company that you're working for will apply for your next visa. So next visa happens to be the H-1B visa, right? For which the company can apply for you. However, the H-1B again is a lottery system, right? So if you have 3 years stay back, you get, almost 3 to 4 chances to apply for the H-1B. However, if you were only on a 12-month stay back, if you're lucky, the companies can hire you while you're studying, and they try and apply for you once while you're already studying and once when you start working. However, you have to be really lucky in that situation. Otherwise, normally they apply for you once during that 12-month stay back, right? In which case, it's really your luck whether you get it or not, right? So, so the H-1B, they can repeat that. So if you're done with the 3-year H-1B, the company can repeat the H-1B for you, right? Right. So the road to PR and citizenship in the US is a pretty long one. There's no shortcuts there. The good thing about the US is that it's a vibrant economy. There's a lot of startups, right? So pretty much anything you're looking for is probably booming in the US, right? The other thing about the US is that when it comes to courses in the US, students have the opportunity to combine even 2 completely different majors. So even if you're doing like science and you want to do music with it, right? That is an option that you can do in the US. However, in other countries, it's quite streamlined that, okay, if you're studying engineering, then you're just studying engineering, right? You don't have this, this option to combine majors and minors like this. Okay, so if we come to Canada, in Canada, again, the most expensive school is University of Toronto. Everything else is probably slightly lesser than that. The 4 top schools in Canada are University of Toronto, UBC, which is British Columbia, McGill, and Waterloo, right? And then so that's your tier 1 schools, and then your tier 2 schools, you have your York, and you have McMaster, you have Queen's, so you have a couple of other schools there. So lots of options in Canada as well that way. In terms of scholarships, Canada is not so, they don't give so much scholarship, although a couple of students that have applied through us have got scholarships at UBC, but not huge amounts. I mean, $5,000, $7,000, like that. Visa after degree. All right. So obviously, as I guess everybody's aware, the road to PR and stay back is the easiest in Canada. So that's why it's such a lucrative option for most people. So if you do your course in Canada, you immediately get a 3-year stay back, right? It takes 2 years to get a PR. A lot of times, if companies want, they can even apply for you for an express PR, which comes in 6 months. So all of this is relatively easier in Canada. The good thing about Canada is there's a lot of prospects, there's a lot of great quality of life. It's obviously close to the US. So if you do get a PR, then it also becomes easier for you to try and work in the US. The thing about Canada is also that, it's important to be in the city, right? So it's important to be in Toronto or in Vancouver. Otherwise, it may be a little more isolated than other places. But yeah, of course, if you're in Toronto or Vancouver or even in Montreal, you'd be quite happy in those places. Okay, so when it comes to the UK, so the UK for many years wasn't an option for many students. However, last year, the UK changed their rule and they now have a 2-year stay back post-study work visa. So now, again, the UK has become a very tempting option for a lot of people. In the UK, your Oxford and Cambridge are the most expensive schools, which would be about, in Indian rupees, about 45 lakhs maybe for a year. That's Oxford, Cambridge. Everything else is slightly lesser. You have, obviously, as I just mentioned, you have a 2-year stay back in the UK. Again, in the UK and Canada, subjects are very streamlined. So if you're doing engineering, then you're really only doing engineering, right? If you're doing psychology, then you're really only doing psychology. Maybe a few schools might let you combine psychology and business or psychology and sociology, but everything is kind of in the same realm of subjects. It's, so even in the UK, it's tough to get a PR. Even though you get your 2-year post-study work visa, after that, only the company that you're working for can extend your visa. So if there are any questions on either Canada, UK, or US, then you can let me know in the chat box.
Kritika,
Yeah.
There was a question about Netherlands. So, if you can just briefly cover Netherlands.
Okay, sure. So what was the question, Richa? If you can tell me exactly.
Just that, will you be sharing any data about Netherlands? So just a little bit.
Okay. All right. So in Netherlands, actually, we do have students that apply to Netherlands. So there's a couple of universities, obviously University of Amsterdam. Then there's Rotterdam. There's the University of Rotterdam also. And then there's Leiden University also. So these are the 3 that our students have applied to. How it works in Netherlands is that the application process is quite simple. You have to create a StudyLink account. There, the application is called a StudyLink. So you just create that account and you go ahead with your application. As for stay back in the Netherlands, once you finish your course, you get a 1-year stay back, right? The only thing about the European Union is, except Ireland, is that it's tough for you to get a job, because it's not your first language, right? So if Dutch is not your first language, again, so that is a barrier for you to get a job, right? Of course, if you speak English, that helps, but they do prefer that you kind of try and pick up a little bit of the language as well, right? So that being the first barrier. The second barrier is now, as it is, there were not so many jobs in Europe because the economies were slowing down there. But now with COVID, it might be even slightly tougher, is what I would say. We have had students go to Netherlands in the past, and they have had a tough time. They love the courses and they've had a great experience overall, but just the staying back and getting a job and all that, it's a bit tough. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, great. So we can move on then.
Yes. So is Niranjana in the here yet, Simran?
Not yet, Richa.
Okay, so perhaps we can answer some of the questions, and Simran, if you can just check if we can reach out to Niranjana.
Yes,
right?
I'm doing that.
So guys, if you have any particular questions, then you can, speak up as well. And while our colleague Niranjana joins, we had asked her to join at 10:45. I'm particularly looking at this question by Shilpa. She's just Shilpa, one second, where's 2 more questions? So I'll just answer that one. Where's the question gone? It's here. Yeah. Should my daughter pursue psychology PG immediately after 3rd year, complete 4 years at Ashoka for Canada? No. So particularly if she wants to go to Canada, then, if you want to go immediately, then yes, the 16th year is always a good idea for you to complete. However, what I would really suggest for a master's in psychology is that she should work for a while before she gets into it, because psychology opens so many areas, including, apart from counseling and therapy and academic research, it also opens areas within technology, and within business, whether it is sales and marketing or human resources or neuromarketing, which is a very, very big area today. So if you combine psychology with mathematics and look at and biology, and you sort of specialize in neuroscience, then you can have a lot of work in business where they employ neuroscientists to help them with looking at marketing, particularly with an understanding of what's really subliminally reaching out to people. It's sort of at the edge of technology ethics, I believe, but there's a lot of work going on, even on understanding the ethics, understanding on what works, etc. So it's very good for her to get that exposure for a couple of years to see what are the various aspects of psychology, and then apply for a master's. But just to answer your specific question, yes, it's better to complete 4 years at Ashoka if you want to go to Canada for your PG. Then I'm looking at a couple of the other questions. We've got medicine from you. Do you prepare your students from SAT? We have an online course called eprep.com, where we've got an affiliate relationship. They have some very good courses for students to prepare for SAT, particularly if they're happy to prepare on their own with a little bit of inputs, a couple of classes to understand an overview of it. Otherwise, we typically recommend them to Tutela, which is a very good tutoring option. I've also, a lot of people go with individual counselors who work with them. So Tanvi, to answer your question directly, no, we don't really do that. Are there educational prospects in Japan, Karan? So, well, Karan, we've had a number of kids reach out to us specifically for Japan, and it's always been for art. Apart from that, I know that, a couple of them went to Japan actually for data science, and I'm aware of them working in, I don't remember the name of the place exactly, where they are studying data science over there, where you don't necessarily need a very deep knowledge of Japanese. But to study art, you definitely need to understand Japanese. You need to have a certain level of Japanese knowledge to be able to do that. And also you need to be 18 years of age. So it takes, I think you need to know it at the, at N5 level, I think, for you to be able to do that, to go into Japan. And, as counselors, we can't really help you too much because the application is entirely in Japanese.
In Japanese.
Yeah, so there isn't that much that we can do to help you, but we can help you figure out what are the leading colleges over there, what are the prospects. So if you're particularly looking at art, yes, Japan is sort of, it's leading a lot of the art revolution and the graphic novel revolution. Even, the anime and animation movies abroad, it's leading a lot of that. So that's a huge area for you to look at. We still recommend to students that you should do your graduation in India, and then look at, not in India, but do your graduation in a English-speaking country, probably more mainstream. And then at the post-grad level, you would be going to Japan, but that's just our recommendation, right?
Richa, Niranjana is here.
I know, but, people have a few questions, so let me see if there's some other questions we can quickly answer. What are some business psychology careers that look positive post-COVID? So, if you look at just sales and marketing, and particularly digital marketing, a lot of digital marketing requires you to understand the psychology behind the data. It's very easy to say, oh, there's a correlation between people buying stuff on a sunny day, maybe, or people buying stuff on Mondays and Tuesdays. But what's really going on? How do you speak to people? How do you have a communication around it? So sales and marketing definitely hugely, and also, a lot of neuromarketing is a huge area that people can be looking at. So that's something that you can. Other than that, of course, human resources, like I said, post-COVID, human resources does look big because there's a whole rejigging of people's roles, people's training, the organizational design. So that's another huge area. So now that we've got a couple of our US-based counselors who've joined us, someone's asked what are the options in Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. So Epshita, we're not covering Singapore, Australia, New Zealand in depth in this seminar, but we can discuss it later one-to-one at some point with you. right? Germany for computer science, I believe the prospects are great. But again, you know, today our focus is really on US, Canada, and UK, and we sort of selected them as the top three destinations, basis our understanding of the prospects over there, as Kritika has just shared with you. Okay, so Niranjana Niranjana is here. Niranjana works with a number of our students, and she's a leading counselor based in California. She's particularly a consultant a writing consultant, and I won't take over her introduction, but allow her to introduce herself to you, and she'll take you a little bit through how you pitch yourself to universities. Niranjana, over to you.
Great, thanks, Richa. Hi, everyone. So my name is Niranjana Iyer. I live in California, and I work as a writing consultant, and I have a company called The Compelling Story. I work with all kinds of writers, including aspiring novelists and essayists, and of course, high school students. So the high school student needs help for the essay for the US application, because the US application tends to be quite writing heavy, especially compared to some of the other apps for Canada or other countries. So if I can just have the first slide, Richa. Yes, so, oh, all right. So as you can see, there are many components to the application when you're applying to the US, and you can kind of divide it into the statistical component, which is you have to have great grades. You have to have really high test scores in your SATs or your ACTs. You should be in the top 5 to 10% of your class. And these are all the kind of numerical metrics that they will evaluate. But the other component of the application is really things like, you know, initiative, passion, how you connect with your community. And the way you show all these things is really through the essays that you write. And you will be writing quite a few essays. Most students apply to about 10 universities, 10 to 12 universities in the US. So we are talking for something like 30 to 40 essays. So it's a substantial amount. The essays themselves are divided into various categories. So if we go on to the next slide, they have a kind of unifying theme. So the purpose of the essay is really to talk about who you are. The statistics like the GPA and your ACT and SAT scores tell us what you're like academically, but they don't tell us what kind of person you are. So the essay's purpose is really to tell the university about your personality and your character. And the reason why this is important is that, let's say you have SAT of 1450 and you made 92%. There will be hundreds, if not thousands of people with those same scores. So how are you different from someone else who made that same 1450 and the 92? And the way you present how unique you are is through the essay. So it distinguishes you from other people with similar metrics and statistics. The second thing the essay does is to provide a context for all your achievements. So let's say you became, cricket captain of your high school team. How did you get there? Maybe you were the son of a famous cricketer, in which case it's kind of simple and the context is not very elaborate. But if you had some kind of interesting journey, you've battled injuries, it wasn't easy for you to play cricket when you had other responsibilities like looking after siblings at home or something, that's a more interesting story for the same achievement. So what the essay does, it tells the university how you got where you are, why you do what you do, why you are the person you are. And the reason you need all these things is really because the university wants to see that you're a good fit for them. Every university has a different persona, and you can see that when you go to their websites. Different universities prioritize different qualities in individuals. So through the essay, you show them that you understand what they're asking for and that you can supply it. And that's one of the reasons we write essays. And of course, the last reason is to show that you can write. Many students who are very STEM focused have been coding since third grade. You guys can rotate a matrix in your head, all kinds of algorithms, but writing is challenging. And the reason why universities want to see what kind of writer you are is that writing is a proxy for other skills. It's a proxy for things like critical thinking. It's a proxy for self-awareness. It's a proxy for imagination. So even if you're a computer science student, you cannot get away with writing, and and you should kind of keep that in mind when you go to the US for your higher studies. Now moving on to the types of essays, there are basically three types, and the first and the most challenging for many students is the personal essay. The personal essay is common across universities, so you write one essay and you send that to most of the universities you will be applying to, apart from a few exceptions like MIT or UCs don't take that personal essay. But you write this long personal essay, it's 650 words, and that goes out to all the universities. So you don't have to write a separate personal essay for each university you apply to. And then most universities will ask you the question, why do you want to come here and why should we take you? Which is the why this college essay. And the third essay you will have to write is other supplements that the university will ask you, which are particular to the university themselves. So for example, NYU might be asking you like why do you want to come here? And a really bad answer for that is, I want to enjoy the New York nightlife, right? You really want to go to the university because you want to study there and you respect the faculty, not because you think New York is cool. So we'll get into the types of essays in a little more detail, starting with the personal essay. And the main personal essay, and this is something many students find hard to grasp and hard to write, is a reflection of what kind of person you are. It is not why you did well at math or how amazing you are at coding. It is the kind of human being you are. And the who you are is really, kind of broken down into four further stimuli. And if you can just see those. Yeah, so who you are is really a function of these, criteria. What experiences have you gone through that have made you the person you are today? And, we all go through different things, and some of them have really shaped us in a very fundamental way. So for example, if you have parents who went through a divorce, then you're a different person now than you would be without that experience. If you moved a lot around the country or around the world, being immersed in different cultures have shaped you in a certain way. All those kind of factors go into the personal essay. We want to see what you've learned from others, whether it's like a book or a movie or a person, what you love and why you love it. And really, we want to see how you've grown over time. The person you were when you were 13 ideally should not be the person you are at 16 because, things have happened to you. You've evolved as a person. You might have believed the world is black and white, and at 16, 17, you're like, it's a little more gray. We want to see that growth and evolution. So the personal essay is a really great opportunity to show them what makes you unique. And really, all of us are unique because our statistics are similar, but the people we are different. So these are some of the factors that would go into writing that challenging but very rewarding personal essay. And then the second thing that we had talked about is the supplemental essays. And, there are many different prompts, and the most infamous of the prompts is the University of Chicago, which is known for its, really challenging prompts, because the prompts are set by the students. So, everyone is like, okay, I got in after writing these really challenging essays. Let me set some topics for you guys from the next round to really challenge yourself. So you have to write a letter to an everyday object, and, they tend to be really out there. But for the most part, you can divide the supplemental essays into three types. And the first thing the college will ask you is, why should we take you? How do you fit what we're looking for? And I'll kind of expand on that a little bit later. The second thing that you should really be thinking quite hard about is the college wants to see in what way you help people and whom you help. And they don't have any, one is not better than the other, but you really want to put yourself out there and make a difference in some group of people's lives. So you could help children by tutoring them. You could help, homeless people. You could help any, underprivileged community. But we want to see that the help is not just an intellectual exercise. You need to have done something about it. And I don't know if Richa has talked to you about profile building, but really, the thing you don't want is, kind of resume padding at the end. I put in 2 hours a week at the end to show I'm such a good person. The community help should be consistent and should come from a place of genuine interest. You shouldn't just look and say, okay, today I feel like helping them. There should be a reason for your help. It should be consistent and it should be documented. So if you're passionate about any cause, helping stray animals, battling the Delhi pollution, you should do some kind of long-term sustained activity that you can write about in your essay. And the last thing that you need to kind of demonstrate in your essay is what communities you belong to. And most universities will have some sort of prompt about this. Which groups are you a part of and why do you like being part of them? And groups can be anything. You could be part of a linguistic group. You speak a dialect. It's a religious group. It's an ethnic group. It also could be a group based around your interests. So if, for example, if you like playing chess and you're part of a chess club, what does it mean to you to be part of this club? And again, the trick to writing these essays is to show that you've been invested in it consistently for a long time. An essay about any activity is not effective unless the activity is sincere and documented and consistent over time. So anytime you're thinking of, saying what activity should I do? I'm in 10th grade or 11th grade. Take something that really appeals to you, that fits in with your interests, and then work consistently at it so you have a story by the time you're in 12th grade and you have to write these essays. And then I just want to talk a little bit about this understanding how you fit the college prompt, because that's something many students find quite challenging. So we call this why this college, that's what we call in the industry, the why this college essay prompt. So it's really broken down into two things. Why should the school take you and why do you want to come there? So the first thing they're asking is why us? And the why us, the enemy of the why us is the generic, oh, because you're so good, right? If you tell a school, I want to come to you because you're prestigious, you have amazing faculty, you have world-class research opportunities, that is true at least for the top 100 universities in America. So really, we want to know what is special about them for you, in your eyes. And the answer is that you have to really research the university. So for example, if you're passionate about, say, combating the pollution in Delhi, and this particular university has a department that's very strong in researching air pollution in urban cities, especially Asia, and you've done this kind of research, the school will be like, okay, this student knows why they're coming there. The worst thing you can do is like send a kind of generic application to Harvard saying, I want to go there because it's a prestigious school and I want to be with world-class peers. And no university wants to see that. They know this information already. And the second why this college, the component of the why this college essay is, why should they take you? And really here you have to demonstrate that you have something valuable to offer the college in turn. And because you fit well with them, you know what their priorities are. Some schools are very focused on academics. Some schools are large sports schools. And some schools are all about the kind of student life and alumni networks. Show that you've done your research and that you know why you're going there and that you have a strong reason to go there, and that's why they would pick you. So this is actually quite a lot of information, I guess, at one stage. But once you start doing the research on your schools and understanding why you want to go there, many of these answers will be quite organic. And I think it's a good process for the student. You don't go for a brand name or, someone's son went there and said it's great. You should really be reading about the school, understanding what makes them tick, understanding what makes them special, and understanding why they might pick you. And accordingly, your answers will really make them happy that you've done the homework instead of just being, yes, you're great and, you're so respected, I really want to go there, is something you don't ever want to say. That's really what I wanted to talk about. So if anyone has questions or if Richa would like me to say something more, I'd be happy to do that.
So Niranjana, we have Barry from California as well, who's joined us. He's a design counselor. So if you have questions for Niranjana right away, you can put them in the chat. Barry will also just give you a little bit of an overview, and then if you want to ask specific questions to either one of them, we can open the house for that. And then of course we look at the non-STEM options in the US, which we talked about as well. So Barry, can you hear me? There you are. Do you want to share
Yes.
any slides, or do you want to?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if I've enabled sharing for you. Yeah, there. I think you'll be able to share now, and do introduce yourself as well.
Okay, my name is Barry Beach, and I have a little presentation just to share. I'll talk a little bit about studying art or design in the US, and I'm based in California as well. So I just have some things like Niranjana was talking about, essays and ways to think about essays and ways to include the you and the statement which you're writing. I have sort of talking more about the portfolio side. And of course, we're talking really mostly for students wanting to study art and design, although obviously students could also submit what's called a supplemental portfolio. It's sort of it's not a required portfolio. We can get more to that in a little bit. Just a little bit about me. I've been doing college advising for about 12 years. I've been teaching visual art for 11 years. Most recently, I was working in admissions at University of California, Berkeley. And I've studied art both from a bachelor's and undergraduate. So I've sort of been doing this for quite some time. The gray hairs show my age. But you know, one thing to really think about for studying art is what type of college environment do you as a student want? You know, there's so many different types of places to study. There's this sort of university, which can be sort of small, medium, and large. There's the liberal arts college, which tends to be on the small side, almost always small. There's the College of Art, which is the place where you're just doing art or design. Occasionally, there's a few other types of majors, but 99% of that is just art or design. Or a more popular choice recently has been sort of places that let you cross and roll between two types of institutions. So that would be like, you might have heard of Rhode Island School of Design, the Rapid Brown University. They let students cross and roll. So that's been a sort of a popular thing the last few years. It lets sort of students, I guess, in a sense, they don't have to commit to one or the other. They can sort of be indecisive in a way, and sort of maybe get the, I sort of think of it as the best of both worlds. They get to sort of get the intense focused art program, and they get to take many more academics than they could traditionally take at a College of Art. So when I was at RISD, I took a class, environmental studies class at Brown, and that's something that you couldn't normally take at a College of Art. They're not going to have an environmental studies department or write an astronomy course. I've taken that before too. You're not going to have that at your traditional College of Art. But so that's an example of how that's sort of been a popular thing recently. Other thing to think about regarding studying art and design in college is really think about you now as a young artist or young designer. You know, how much time are you spending on that in school? You know, I'll be talking about the portfolio in a minute, but you want to think about sort of what, you know, how important that is to you. Are you just sort of doing it for a class, or is it when class is over and you've got your studying done? Do you have a sketchbook? Are you drawing? Are you doing design stuff? Are you doing animation on the computer? So the other thing to think about in that is it's a pretty focused and high demanding time amount spent for studying art and design. So your typical college programs studying art and design, you might be doing 15 to 20 hours of art or design work per week outside of the studio or classroom. So, you know, it's just like if you were studying STEM, there's a very demanding nature of studying art at the college level. And this is, you know, most specifically what people usually work with me for is that they're not exactly sure what the portfolio is. What should I put in the portfolio? I've done this type of work. Is it good for a portfolio? How can I make my portfolio stronger? You know, so the portfolio can be a really large part of the admissions decision, particularly at colleges of art. You know, how Niranjana talked about how the essay can sort of help differentiate you. For sure, the portfolio can do that for you applying. If people are coming in with good grades, well, lots of people have good grades, lots of people have good test scores. What is it about you that's interesting that can come out in the portfolio? a portfolio can demonstrate focus, ideas, your technical ability, whether that's painting or drawing, your design ability. Also shows a work ethic, right? If you have a really strong portfolio, schools are aware that it took many, many hours outside of you being a student at high school for you to do that. You probably spent afternoons, maybe weekends, maybe spent some time over the summer, maybe even did some kind of a summer program. And then last but definitely not least is, it's not just about how do you perform in your art classes, but how do you performing academically? Grades really matter, particularly when you think about competitive programs. I mean, for sure, there's colleges of art in the US where the vast majority of applicants get in, and then there's places, like USC or NYU or, Rhode Island School of Design, where you've got very competitive admissions processes. So, they're not just looking at a strong portfolio, they're also wanting to have strong grades and tough classes. So, if you're studying art in the US, at the very least, 35% of your coursework for those 4 years would be in liberal arts, writing, math, science, history. Depending if you were at a liberal arts school, that number could easily go up to 70, 75% of the coursework. So that's something I talk to students with too, sort of what's that balance they're looking for. That's sort of all I really wanted to share, because I can easily talk too much. I'm a teacher. So does anybody have any particular questions or?
Thanks, Barry. So,
Sure,
we do every year look at very, very talented students who are applying to the US for art and design, or to Canada and UK. Canada and UK having some of the leading design colleges, apart from Europe, of course, but just given the visa requirements, the visa possibilities, these three become more preferred destinations. So if you have any specific questions, you can put them in the chat right now. We just have one little segment to cover about the US, and then we'll be done with the US part. So if you have US based questions, you can, specifically address people at that time, and you can keep putting it in the chat in the meanwhile. So we had Ruchi, who was supposed to share with us about non-STEM options. She's also a California-based counselor, so we really have a beautiful connect with beautiful California. But Ruchi's got a sore throat and she just can't speak, so she wasn't able to attend this. But Kritika will take you through the segment about STEM and non-STEM options in the US and how you understand that. Kritika, all yours.
Sure. So I think somebody also had a question on this, if we can elaborate on which are the STEM courses and which are the non-STEM courses. So if Richa, you could just share the slide. Yeah. All right. So as mentioned earlier, the non-STEM courses have a 1-year post-study work visa, while the STEM courses have a 3 years post-study work visa, right? So popular STEM courses in the US are computer science, psychology is another one, economics is another one, right? So what we generally also try and advise our students is, even if you're taking up a non-STEM course, which tends to happen a lot in the case of students that are applying for business, right? So a lot of times we try and work through that and try and see if we can maybe, try and give them an economics major, right? So with an economics major, they would become a STEM student, right? So not all universities, again, offer economics major as a STEM course. So then we know that there are certain places that offer it like that, right? So what we try and do is we maximize the chances for the student to try and get that 3-year stay back. But however, in many cases, it doesn't happen.
Sorry, if I can just come in here one moment, Kritika. So see, as we were showing you, when I showed you the previous slide about, popular STEM courses. Now, it's of course important to understand that, an Asian male particularly applying for computer science is the most common profile that admissions officers are seeing across UK, Canada, and US, right? So that's actually a very competitive pool to apply in. Some of the areas you can consider apart from that would of course be data science, engineering, business finance is another area, pure science if you're interested in, web and multimedia design. But what Kritika is pointing out over here, which is very interesting, is that there are certain courses which you think would not be STEM, but they are designated as STEM within the US structure, which include these ones, psychology, management science, multimedia design, environmental studies. So we often guide our students to take such a course so that you get the benefits of STEM without necessarily studying hardcore science. Sorry, please go ahead, Kritika.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Right. Having said that, of course, we understand that in the way, students' interests are, that a lot of times it may not align with the STEM course. And also it's not very easy a lot of times, maybe if you're not so inclined towards that kind of a subject. So one of the success stories actually that we have is with our own colleague Poonam. Her daughter studied at UMass Amherst, and very recently she graduated. So she got the 1-year stay back, and the company applied for her H-1B, and she even got the 3-year H-1B extension. So there are, of course, many stories with students that are not so tech and math focused, but would like to explore other areas.
Right. So that's sort of, our overview to you about studying in the US. If you have any specific questions that you want to address to a specific counselor, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
Some.
I see there's a question over here saying, can psychology and design be combined? Can psychology and design be combined? UX design, I guess, is really combining psychology and design, which is user experience design. And that is actually a very big thing today, because all products are moving online, and a lot of what we used to consider to be a product or a service really needs to be rejigged right now in a largely online environment, which is expected to remain a hybrid environment for a very long time. So even hotels, for example, need to redefine their processes, products, what clients are getting, etc. So user experience design is partly related to computer science, partly related to your psychology of understanding customers, and partly just related to designing products and processes. So I would say user experience design would be one that would largely combine that. And then of course fashion, because a lot of fashion is psychology. Like I said, fashion is very big and it's going to grow, except that since these are emerging areas, you'll need to find your way. So you'll need to sort of figure that out. So we can of course specifically find areas within there, but certainly these are two areas that immediately come to mind on how psychology and design can be combined, Mariam. Then I'm looking at another name for UX design is interactive design. Absolutely, Barry. Thank you so much. Any specific questions you have for Niranjana or Barry, please go ahead, or for us.
Somebody had asked, are online portfolios recommended to present? I guess this is for Barry.
What is an online portfolio? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, there's really only one College of Art that actually physically collects, well, two colleges of art that actually physically collect much information at all, and they're very competitive programs. So really 99.5% of all portfolios are going to be photographed, regardless of what the actual media is used, unless it's digital media. If it's a drawing, a painting, something like that's a physical object, it's going to be photographed and uploaded. Most sites these days, most colleges that use the common application, the private colleges, there's a third-party link called slideroom.com, and they use that for collecting the portfolio on the vast majority of cases. So yeah, they're all digital in that sense.
Right, so there's a question for Niranjana here saying, could you elaborate about Ivy League colleges versus other types? And I think the thing is that what are they looking for? So Niranjana, any ideas there?
So this is an interesting question because, the Ivy League started as a sports league is something you should keep in mind. Now it has a lot of connotations of academic excellence, but it is not that the non-Ivy leagues are not Ivy. So you really have to understand what the Ivy League is about before you apply. And my advice is always go where the major is really strong. It does not automatically imply a slam dunk if it's an Ivy. So my first piece of advice is do your research. And if still the Ivies are your intended destination, the one thing you should understand is everyone who applies to the Ivy is at the top of their game. So if you have a 1600 SAT and, whatever, an unweighted GPA of 4 and a weighted GPA of 5.6, everyone there is going to have very similar statistics. So what would the Ivies look for? For the most part, they're looking for people who are at the top of their game. So if you're looking at an achievement, it would probably be a national to an international level achievement. The basic minimum is excellent scores and grades. If you don't have a very unique hook in terms of being a recruited athlete or a URM or some very specific hook, good grades are I would say, are the necessary but not sufficient condition for the IVs. So beyond that, you really have to stand out from the crowd by demonstrating passion in your extracurriculars, really magnificent achievements. After that, you know, it's really hard to predict Ivy admissions and I'm sure Barry's seen this, you know, if you have a student who is, say, at a certain GPA on one grid and you know, SAT on the other, you can predict quite easily what band of universities they would be admitted to. But at the Ivy level, everyone is very competitive. So there is a large element of uncertainty when it comes to Ivy League admissions compared to, say, going to a very good institution like, I don't know, like a large state school like UMass Amherst. We can predict with a high degree of accuracy if you'll get in. But the IVs are always a bit of a gamble, also because the class sizes are very small. Please keep in mind, I think the entire intake for the IV for the year is 24,000 students. So, you know, you divide that by half, whether you're a boy or a girl, divide that again for international students. It's a very small number that a lot of extremely skilled applicants are shooting for. So my deal is always, you know, do your best, write a great app, but have a lot of target and safety schools when you're doing this process. And I wonder if Barry has any thoughts about, I mean, I went to an IB as well. I went to Dartmouth. And really, it's tiny. You have to really want it and understand it before you go to a school of that sort. You have to understand the culture. And, you know, all of them are quite unique in their own way. So I think my answer is research, research, research. If you are keen on a particular IV, which is strong in a certain field, that's a very good thing to do, but don't just go for the IVs because they happen to be IVs. Barry has something to add. It might be interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing I would just add is just in general, you can think about when a school gets down to, you know, lower than 20% admission rates, statistically speaking, you know, I mean, 80+% of those applicants would meet the bare minimum for getting in. So you're talking about they're looking for ways to reject applicants, statistically speaking. I mean, so, I mean, not trying to, you know, pop any bubbles. I think everybody who's a rising senior, if Harvard's been on your bucket list for years, you should apply, but just know statistically speaking that you're probably not going to get in, just statistically speaking, not to say that it might not be the perfect place and you write the perfect essay and do get in, but as Niranjana is saying, you know, you have to write other places, apply to other places as well.
Thanks, Barry and Niranjana. We do help students sort of make a balanced list, you know, so look at some top colleges, IVs plus some top colleges as, you know, 2 or 3 of them in your list. Or maybe if you've got a fantastic academic and extracurricular profile, then maybe 4 or 5, and then have the rest of the list as being, you know, very, you know, so in the US, there would be 50 or 60 colleges which would be of outstanding international reputation and outstanding academics. So there is so much else for you to look at, and we'd encourage you to do that. There's a question by Amoli that it's been pending for me to answer for a bit, which is about how do subjects in 11th and 12th impact the courses applied to? And yes, they do. So if you're applying to a technology oriented course, you know, engineering, of course, they'd be looking at physics, chemistry, maths, you know, pretty much like India, though it's not a requirement in the US, you know, let's look at it as not being a stated requirement, right? It is sort of like an unstated requirement, but it's definitely going to make it very difficult for you to get admission in good colleges without having those subjects if you're looking at engineering. If you're looking at a computer science, then a physics and maths does become important, at least a mathematics or maybe, you know, mathematics and computer science, you know. So those would be combinations there. If you're looking at biology, then again, they'd be looking at you're taking bio plus maths. See, across US, Canada, and UK, you'll find that people really prefer students to have mathematics rather than not when they are looking at STEM subjects, right? So this whole thing of physics, chemistry, biology in India without maths makes it a little dicey for some of the students applying abroad. If we look at other subjects such as, finance, business, again, math is a good idea. If you look at design, then of course, applied art and fine art would be a great idea. If you're looking at psychology, it's great for you to have psychology, but it's not necessary. But, if you apply without having studied psychology in 11th and 12th, it becomes a little difficult for you to pitch yourself. But what you can do, and I've known students to do this both for computer science and psychology, that they didn't take it in school, but they did courses outside school, either, self-taught courses or online courses. They wrote a research paper, they did a project with somebody, and they really bolstered their profile, and that was acknowledged by colleges, and they got good admission. So that's definitely possible. I don't know if I'm answering that question. If maybe you ask specifically for a course, we can tell you what the subject requirements for that are. Quickly, there are 4 more questions that I missed in the meanwhile. Is physics required for 11th, 12th for medicine abroad? If you're, Sandeep, since you're looking at pre-med in the US, I would say it's not necessary. You could have a biology and chemistry, and that would be all right for you to apply to a biochemistry or a biomedicine sort of a course. It will be nice for you to have math, like I said, but physics is not absolutely necessary for pre-med in the US. And if you look at any feedback on University College London or King's College London, so we'll look at UK in a bit, and then we can discuss that in a little more detail. Then the question for Niranjana, do you take on students who want to apply to Canada for school essays, or do you focus on US only? So I'll answer that on your behalf, Niranjana. Sorry about that. So Ruchi, we do work with students across US, Canada, and UK, and the students that Niranjana works with, she's happy to work with on essays for US as well as Canada. Am I right, Niranjana?
Yes, and I should add that I lived in Canada for 10 years, so I am fairly well acquainted with that system as well. Yes.
Right. So Amoli is asking, if I've taken bio and chem in school, can I still pursue business and psychology? Certainly you can. But if you're in 11th right now, then there are things that you can do to make yourself more business psychology oriented. For example, an online course, a research project, an internship, something that shows where that how you've tried to build that interest, because they'll ask specific questions across the 3 countries. They'll ask you, how have you demonstrated your interest and how have you developed your interest in this subject over the last 2 years? And you will need to have something to show. So if it's all right if your subjects are not totally geared towards that, but you need to do something to make it work towards that. Here, Mariam has a question here, is biology to be taken in 11th class for psychology major later? It's not necessary, but it definitely helps. It bolsters your profile, certainly, so the combination of biology and psychology is very strong. Biology, psychology, and mathematics is a fantastic combination. I actually love math, so I do keep telling people to take math, but it's not just that. It's also that universities love math. Right. So, but yeah, biopsycho by itself is also a fantastic combination, but you can apply for psychology without biology or math as well, Mariam, to answer your question specifically. All right. So I think that's the story on the US, and perhaps, we can look at a particular, we can sort of look at UK now, especially because there were a couple of questions on UK. So we do have a specialist from UK here as well. But let me just thank Niranjana and Barry so much for, being here and answering a lot of questions. If you're hanging out for a bit, then, people can still address questions to you, or if they send them, we can send them to you later and get your answers and revert back to you with those questions, right? So I just want to introduce to you Durgha, and I'd like Kritika also to support Durgha here a little bit. So Kritika leads a lot of our counseling for students in UK, building their college lists and helping them prepare their application to the best. So she would lead a lot of the UK applications. And what Durgha does is really very interesting, and you really want to, understand what UK offers from Durga's perspective, because she works with students who've just graduated, helping them figure out placement opportunities. So we wanted her to come and give you a view on the prospects in UK, and Durga's delighted to do that. Durga, so will you be sharing your screen?
Yeah, I'll share my screen and then
we'll do introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen first of all.
Sure.
So can everyone see the screen? Is that?
Absolutely, yes.
Super. So good morning, everyone. So my name's Durgha, and I'm a placement officer at the University of Sussex Business School. So as part of my role, I work in particular with second year students and students who are graduating and going on to graduate schemes. So before I begin, I just want to also outline that it's really important that as soon as you, or even maybe even before you join your university and you start the academic year, it's really important that you have the career service in mind at your university. So it's
Durgha,
important that you
I'm so
access.
sorry. Can you just give them a little overview of your own career and a little introduction to yourself? Because it's very interesting what you've done, and I'd really like them to have that view.
Okay, so in terms of my own career journey, I studied French and history at university. So instead of pursuing a career-orientated degree, I actually followed my interest in languages, literature, and history. So that's what I decided to study. So my degree, I was at UCL, and as part of my degree, I spent 2 years in Paris as well, pursuing my university education there. So those were 3 brilliant years that I spent studying French and history. Following that, I did my sort of first graduate experience in India, actually. I got a job with a company called Ink Talks in Bangalore, and Ink is like the TED of India, you can say. They're a huge conferencing company. They bring together leading people in India and from abroad who are leading in their field and sharing their opportunities and their studies and their research and their work to the world. So following that year in Bangalore, I came back to the UK and was working in a higher education institution here. And following that, there was a lot of interest in global mobility, or outward mobility as it was called in the UK, for UK university students to gain international experience abroad. So going to countries in Europe, but also into Asia, to America. So building their sort of global employability skills, looking at the world as a whole and how they could really build an international career. So that's of course not for everybody, but there was a real push for UK university students to build their sort of intercultural skills and experiences. So as part of that, I worked with Inomi learning in India. So many of you might be familiar with Inomi. You might have gone on Inomi camps. And you know what a brilliant experience Inomi offers young people. So as part of my work at Inomi, I was developing a project to get UK university students to do a summer internship in India. So that work involved traveling between the UK and India, working with UK universities to share and promote the program we developed at Inomi, bringing together Richa's knowledge in careers, but also the outdoor education experience. And then I connected with a number of organizations to support students in the UK develop, partner with organizations in India and do a summer internship in India. So those were 2 great years at Inomi, and I got to attend numerous camps within me as well and work with the instructors, work with Richa as well on this program. So that was a really brilliant experience. And following that, I returned back home to the UK and started working at the University of Sussex. So continuing that interest in education, in careers, in employability. And I think in the past 10 years, although of course universities offer the academic experience, in the UK in particular, there's been a real growth in the careers and employability teams at UK universities, and there is a real push to embed employability into the curriculum and to look at how can students really think about their career success and how they are developing their employability skills right from year 1. So, so that's a brief background about myself. And in terms of now going into the presentation, I think as I started with, it's really important that you access your university's career service. Outlined here is just a, sorry, let me just minimize this. So outlined here, I've just put the journey of a student on an undergraduate degree with a professional placement. So in the UK, a professional placement is usually taken between your second year and your final year. So it's sort of a sandwich year placement. And then your graduate scheme would follow, of course, after you graduate. So, so a student who may have started in this academic year, so 2020, 2021 academic year, in your first year, I would really recommend that you do focus on building your CV, your work experience and volunteering. So the second key point that I've mentioned here. So with employers in the UK, but of course across the world, work experience that you already have in terms of maybe it's part-time work, which in the UK, international students are allowed to do 20 hours of paid work alongside the academic term, and then you can work full-time outside of the academic term. So that's paid work that you can do alongside your studies. And then also you can volunteer. So you may not necessarily want to commit to part-time work while you're studying, but getting involved in volunteering opportunities is a really great way to already begin to build your CV. So why is this important? So for students, it's an opportunity to build and gain valuable work experience, build your professional network, begin to build that network in the UK, meet employers. So that's from the student perspective. But from the employer perspective, recruitment is a really expensive business. So employers spend lots of money investing in the recruitment process. So for employers, this is known as the early talent recruitment pipeline. So they're engaging with universities, engaging with the career service to come onto campus and to offer, so they're not offering you an internship or a placement like on campus. It's an application process that you need to go through. So that first entry point as a student for you in that early talent recruitment pipeline is the summer internships program that many larger companies offer at the end of a student's first academic year. Following that summer internship program, your next sort of entry point into this early talent recruitment pipeline is the year-long placement after your second academic year. So this is where I do a lot of my work, working with students in their second year. So alongside the academic studies, they're looking at their placement applications. If you are not on a degree program with a placement year, you can often opt in for that program. So if you've taken a degree where, so I'm based in the business school. So for example, a student might do economics with a placement year or just a straight economics degree. This does mean your degree becomes a 4-year program rather than a 3-year program. So that's also something to consider. And with the placement application process, it often with the larger companies, it's a multi-stage process. So you will have an application form, there'll be an interview process, there might be an assessment center. So all of this is happening online at the moment. By the time you come to apply to a placement, let's see what's happening with COVID-19 and what the situation is, and things might be more in person again. But at the assessment center, there'll be group-based tasks that you have to complete. You may have to do selection tests as well. And then following that, you're given your outcome of whether you've been successful in the placement or not. So as I mentioned, a placement is a year-long experience. And I like to think about it as a year-long job interview. It's a real opportunity for an employer to see how do you deliver tasks and activities? How do you engage with clients if it's that type of work? So it's a really great way for an employer to assess your skills and abilities, to assess whether you really do fit into the role and also it's an opportunity for you to develop your skills. So employers know that you're still a student. They know that you're still developing your skills. So it's a great training opportunity for you. So it's a two-way process. And with the placement year, if you haven't done a summer internship, that's okay. The placement year is really that valuable year you get to have in industry. And what's really good about the placement year alongside your academic studies is that you could be fast-tracked onto the graduate scheme of the company you've worked for. So as part of the graduate scheme, again, there's a similar assessment process where you'll have the application form, the interview process, assessment center, and then you're given an offer or not. So if you've done a placement year in a company based in the UK, you could be fast-tracked to, say, the assessment center stage. So you no longer have to do the application form because they've seen what you're capable of. The company knows that this part of the assessment, we trust that you've achieved that already. So we can fast-track you to the graduate scheme. So this sort of timeline that I've outlined here is a typical example of your career and employability journey as part of your academic course. So these entry points into the early talent recruitment pipeline, as it's known, is being aware of this at this stage, maybe before you've started your academic studies or in year one, is sort of your map, you can say, to graduate success. So in terms of graduate schemes and the graduate route, which is the new visa scheme for international students, I'm going to speak about that in a moment. But I also want to share, I won't speak about this now, but there is the startup, entrepreneur, or innovation visa for students who may be interested in starting their own business in the UK. So if you have that interest, there is that option there. But of course, the graduate route visa would be the sort of natural next step after your academic studies. So just to bring the placement program to life and to kind of show what that application process and what the experiences of our students are like, I just want to share a short video. Can you see the video now?
Yes, we can see the video.
Super. So just to quickly introduce this, alongside my work at the university, I also run a consultancy called Flow Finder. And in this consultancy, I work particularly with international students. And this is a placement boot camp that I delivered for students at the university, De Montfort University, which is based in Leicester. So I'll just quickly play the video.
Focused on different skills, such as building resilience, focusing on our goals, and also understanding ourselves. And then I've also delivered sessions around the placement recruitment process, so looking at building a really good CV, thinking about the applications and the assessment centres that our students may face, and then also getting down to writing applications. Our core aim here was for every single student to submit at least one application. So hopefully that's what we'll be achieving by the end of the bootcamp. It's been really...
Sorry, can you hear the sound of the video?
It's very faint.
It's very faint. Okay, let me just increase the volume.
For our students to find that one application that they're going to be working on, and then really understanding what's the job description, what are the skills the employers are looking for, where can they use their experience to describe those skills, and then getting going with the application process. So spending that time focusing on that has been brilliant. Once they've done this first application, it'll help them continue on with doing many more.
What I thought about the group, they're very enthusiastic adults and people coming here to have a go at the activities. They're engaging really well with the activities, but most importantly, it's a definitely big confidence builder for them. So there's a lot of confidence, and you see in the first stage now there's a rapport that's been built amongst them.
The most important thing for me is the group work and the outdoor activity. I like the most climbing because I have a chance to meet my peer. Then I overcome it.
This is my first time of attending a placement boot camp. and it has helped me to really build confidence in myself.
This is helping us in our placements, like we are getting to know how to plan, how to arrange our resources, and how to go with the team and all. And I would take my time to thank the placements team for this opportunity, and thank you to them. Thank you.
So I would like to thank you to placement team for it was a pleasure for us.
So I wasn't sure if the sound was completely good, but in terms of the placement bootcamp, that was an opportunity for students to spend 3 days working on placement applications. So we took students through the CV writing process, going through online applications, and working on interviews. So we delivered mock interviews for students to sort of experience what it might be like to sit through that interview process. Many students haven't gone through an interview process before, so it can be quite a scary, daunting task. So it's breaking down all of these activities, building your experience with CV writing, making sure that you've got that good CV, which employers will when they're sifting through thousands of applications, what's going to make yours stand out. So that was just an example of an activity that I've delivered to support students with this accessing the early talent recruitment pipeline. Now, in terms of the graduate visa, so it's called the graduate route and formerly the post-study work visa. So in terms of the current status, undergraduate and postgraduate students graduating in summer 2021 and beyond are eligible to apply. So unfortunately, if you've graduated before this year, you won't be able to apply for this visa. The applications are not open yet, but will be launched in 2021. And in terms of finding work and being able to access the visa, although you don't need to have secured a job to access the visa, doing all the early career development while you're at university will really help you find that role. In terms of the visa, it's a 2-year visa, so you might as well have worked to achieve a good graduate role and spend 2 years delivering on that role and really building your professional experience in the UK, rather than spending maybe the first 6 months to a year looking for it. So that's why I would say really investing your time in this journey, in this early career journey throughout your academic system is really important. So as I mentioned, you can stay and work or look for work at any skill level. So although you don't need to have a graduate role to be able to make use of this visa, again, investing in that early career path that I've mentioned before is really, really important to help you get that graduate role and work in the industry that you are interested in and that you want to develop your career in. The fee for the visa hasn't been announced yet, but it will, after you've sort of finished on your student visa, you will need to make a new application, and of course there will be a fee as well as the immigration health surcharge. And then in terms of sort of what's happening with the pandemic and COVID-19 at the moment, the UK government have said that if you've started your degree in this academic year and you arrive in the UK by April 2021, then you will still be eligible to apply for this visa. So I would recommend keeping an eye on the UK government website just to keep an eye on the status of what's happening, because things are ever changing at the moment. And then finally, some useful resources. So sort of where to begin if you are thinking about how am I going to develop my career goals while I'm at university. So UKISA, which is the UK Council for International Student Affairs, it's a really great organization offering information, advice and guidance for international students across a whole range of topics. So from visas to work, to well-being, preparing and arriving in the UK. Student Circus is a great jobs portal specifically for international students. Now, Student Circus has actually been set up by 2 international students, Dhruv and I think Kriti, I think her name is Kriti, exactly. So these two students who graduated, they used the Startup Entrepreneur Visa to set up Student Circus. And on the platform, they share sort of opportunities where tier 2 sponsorship is available, where employers are aware of what tier 2 sponsorship is about, and these opportunities are open to international students. So tier 2 is another employment visa which students can access as well. Rate My Placement is another is a website where second year students, so students I work with who are applying for the placement year in between their second and final year, is a website they will use to search for placements across all industry sectors. So I know earlier you were talking about STEM and non-STEM subjects. So placements that you're interested in, you will find opportunities here. The website shares the job description, the application process, and then once a student has selected what they're interested in, I will be working with them to support them with the application process. And then, of course, Flow Finder, my consultancy, where I offer one-to-one support with students, so I can support you throughout your degree program with the application process. We'll be delivering career workshops, and then also we're hoping to deliver the placement boot camp again in early February, March, depending on what the situation is with the pandemic. So that was a very quick and brief overview of your career and career journey alongside your academic studies, and how you can access those windows of opportunities with the internship program, with the year-long placement, and then following that, accessing graduate schemes. So thinking about this journey is really important. I would say, of course, your academic studies, getting those good grades are really important, but building your work experience, thinking about how am I accessing the professional network that's available to me while I'm in the UK, already building those employer relationships, using the support of your career service to build your CV while you're studying, I would say is really, really important as well.
Thanks
so
much,
thank you. Thank you for that, everyone.
Yeah, but thanks so much, Durgha. This is really comprehensive. And, I know because the post-study work visa coming back, the graduate route is relatively new in India now, because last year was the first year when suddenly there were a lot of applications because of this change in the visa policy. And again, this year, there are a lot of applications. So we do need to, people do have this question about, what are the prospects there, and hearing that there's your organization and so many other good resources you shared gives people a lot of comfort that they can figure out what next after you finish your graduation, because just having the visa is not enough. So that's really very good. If anyone has any specific questions for Durgha, you can address her now if you like. You can unmute yourself and ask her directly, or put it in the chat, whatever works for you. Okay, so if you have any specific questions later, you can always send them to us, but we can, also, pass them on to Durgha and get answers. And someone had a specific question about UCL and King's. Kritika, Durgha, would someone like to answer that?
What was the question? I can't.
Any feedback on UCL or King's College London? So you studied at UCL, so
Yeah. No, so I think UCL, it's right in the center of London, and it's in terms of my experiences while I was there, it was a brilliant experience. And I think in terms of my course, because I was interested in languages, alongside French language, I also did a few modules of Hindi and South Asian culture at SOAS, which is literally next door. So often there's an opportunity to take courses at other universities within the University of London group. I also stayed in an intercollegiate hall, which means that there were students from other universities from the University of London in my halls. So students from King's, from LSE. So some of my closest friends were actually from my halls rather than from my course, you could say. I think I'm speaking very generally. If you have something very specific about the university, I could share.
So yeah, of course, UCL and King's are the two of the leading universities in UK, and you do need a very good grade profile to get through. And like Durgha said, they're in the center of the city, which gives you very good positioning as far as leveraging internship options is concerned. This question by Shubha that does a 3-year versus 4-year program choice have to be made upfront? I know you can make it upfront, but Durgha, is it also possible? I mean, are you aware if it's possible to go there and make that choice?
Yeah. So what I would recommend is to make that start with the 4-year program, because your visa that you're applying for will also then cover a 4-year period. So then you've already got within your student visa. So I would recommend going with the 4-year program, even if you're not sure at the moment, just so then your visa is covered. If you start with a 3-year degree and then you opt for, and then you decide, actually, I do want to do a placement, you then have to make another visa application to cover the 4-year period. So what I would recommend is definitely go for the 4-year program choice. And then if you maybe don't secure a placement, or you choose, actually, I don't want to do a placement anymore, then what happens is that your visa would be curtailed, so just cut short to cover the 3-year period. So I would say go for the 4-year, so you have that option.
All right, we'll just spend a couple of minutes more on UK before we move to Canada, because we do have someone coming up here speaking about Canada. The two questions, one is about accommodation in London. Is it difficult to find for students?
So in your first year, the universities will support you with halls accommodation. So there are a number of halls across universities. So in your first year, it's not challenging because a university has halls attached to them, and you would apply through the university to find your first year accommodation. Following that, there's a whole variety of private landlords, to the university housing office, which is another good team to access to support you finding accommodation. So I wouldn't say it's difficult. There are also websites like Spare Room, where you can find people who are renting out rooms. So people who may be landlords and they're renting out rooms for students. So there's a whole variety of options. And if you are feeling very confused about what to do, do get in touch with your university's housing office or housing team. So there are all of these smaller teams which often students don't know exist, and they're there to support you. So just do a bit of time. So if you're worried about accommodation, finding that team at the university that helps you with that.
Thank you very, very much, Durgha. Thanks so much. It's been so comprehensive, and I know that it's a really awkward time for you when we've woken you up.
It's like 6 o'clock in the morning here.
So you would have been up really early for us, and thank you so much for that, Durgha. Thanks a lot.
That's okay.
Right, guys. So we will turn our attention to Canada now. And, we wanted to get you to get a view of some of the leading universities in Canada. And while they don't necessarily reach out to students and do a lot of student outreach sessions, but one of our students who's studying at UBC is with us, Piya, and she'll be taking you through some of that. So Piya, welcome. And perhaps you can introduce yourself, and I'll just share the slides.
Hi everyone, my name is Piya Kaur Bajaj, and I am joining you today from UBC's Okanagan campus, and I am a second-year student. I plan on majoring in international relations and psychology. I am also a recipient of 2 international scholarships at UBC and a member of the Society of Scholars. I'm also currently working with a lot of clubs and just enjoying the pandemic and the work that comes along with working remotely and managing online courses. So I will be taking you through what Canadian colleges want. So as far as I know about Canada, one of the most important things is your grades. I mean, it's not everything, but it is a foot in the door. When it comes to grades, what specifically they will be looking at is your average for sure. But they also look at your degree specific courses. Like for example, if you want to study psychology or political science, they will look at your specific course grades and then make a decision as well. So they're going to also look at the overall score, and subjects that are relevant to your degree will count more. You can move to the next point. One of the most important, I have come here and got to know more about this, is that the personal essay is a very critical part of how they will evaluate your application, because Canadian universities don't really have interviews. So your personal essay is an opportunity for you to actually directly communicate with the admissions officer. So what they're looking for is what defines you, what kind of a person you are, what is so unique about you that is not within any other person, what makes you special. And they're also going to look at your extracurriculars. What I have discovered is they're looking for a student that has a wholesome profile, which means you have the grades as well, you have the extracurriculars as well. So they're looking for leadership, the positions you hold, the council, the clubs you work in, or even if it's any out of school position that you hold is also very relevant. What is your passion? How have you followed it? For example, if you like cricket, what have you done about it? Do you have a cricket blog or things like that? A lot of school students are also taking part in internships. So if you've taken any internships or any extracurricular projects, it's very important to mention them in your extracurricular activities, and you should actually give them a lot of priority. Change making. So colleges in Canada and US look at volunteering. They look at how you are making difference to your community. So what kind of effort you have put in is also very important. So if you've done any community service, make sure that you put it on there on your application. What I love about UBC. So being a first year student and choosing to be a part of the Okanagan campus has been the most wonderful experience that I've had. It is a small community, but the fact that they have very specific courses, and it's a small community, it's a beautiful city. So it's definitely a wonderful experience here. It's everything I could have ever asked for. The city of Kelowna is wonderful. It is very safe. There is a lot of student population, not just from UBC, but even from the Okanagan College. We have great opportunities for research, and this is actually one thing you can do, is that if you get into UBC, you have a lot of opportunities to work with your professors. For example, whatever course you take, in psychology I've seen, or even political science, a lot of your professors will be doing research. So you can get involved with them and gain more experience. They also have a work study program over here. You can collaborate a lot with clubs, because one thing I've seen on this campus is that every student is involved in so many events, so many clubs, and they have a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of resources available, such as peer mentors and academic advisors who you can go to and talk about your academic problems, or if you want to change your stream, they can do that. And it is a very lively community, even though it's small. And I would surely love to answer any questions that you might have.
So I have a question, Piya, about the international student composition. I mean, how many international students do you find there?
International students, I mean, UBC is the most vibrant North American university when it comes to people. So there are people from over 100 countries. I have met people from Uganda, people from Bulgaria. There are a lot of people from India. I think there will be around 200 students from India in my batch only. So yes, there are people from all over the world. Canada itself is a very multicultural country. So when you come here, you're going to interact with a lot of cultures, and it's a truly wonderful experience meeting so many people.
Right. So wonderful. Piya is, of course, talking about UBC, But we have a question from Anjali about U Toronto. And I'll just sort of try to answer it that yes, U Toronto is also a very competitive university, being the leading university in Canada. It's a much larger university and it does have 3 campuses. It's again quite competitive when it comes to both grades and extracurricular activities. And they do ask some very in-depth questions in their essays. And they do spend a fair amount of time evaluating that input that they get from students. So yes, that's quite important. Is there anything else that I'm missing? Okay, so anything else that you have, any questions you have about Canada, you can put in here. Why did you choose?
Somebody's asking that, Piya, why did you choose the Okanagan campus versus the Vancouver campus?
Okay, so for me, I still want to do a double major in international relations and psychology. And when I was going through the course catalog, and this is a very important thing I will give students the advice to do, is that whenever you want to go into a university that has multiple campuses, do go through the course catalog and see the kind of courses you have there. Also, the kind of city and place that Kelowna is, it's a small, beautiful community, very close to nature, with more opportunities for research. And one thing I've seen is that on Vancouver campus, because there are so many people, a lot of people might not get individual attention, whereas here on the Okanagan campus, we get a lot of more attention. And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of growing opportunities here as well. So mainly because of research and the kind of courses that were here. So I really like them.
So there's a question by Sanjay here who's saying, what subject should one choose in class 11 and 12 for computer science for Canada? So that would, see, primarily I would say you would definitely need to have math. Ideally, what you want is physics, math, and computer science, you know. In order of priority, I would say math, physics, and then computer science would be what you would want for Canada. Kritika, are there specific requirements for computer science courses for Canada?
I'll just have to double check, because some universities do want you to take either physics or chemistry along with math. So yeah, that is kind of university specific.
Yeah. In fact, I remember UBC itself, I think, has 2 courses in computer science. One is sort of like a BA computer science, one is sort of like a BS computer science. And the Bachelor of Science requires you to have physics and math and, for computer science, while and sometimes they may require you to, they'll require either physics and maths or, 2 sciences, either one of the 2. But there's also an option of doing it if you just have math without physics, but you will close a number of doors actually. So if you want to do computer science, I would say do take physics if you can. Then otherwise options will be much fewer. There will be options in Canada, but they'll be fewer. Could you talk about studying public health in Canada? So if you mean via the medicine route, then the Canada follows the pre-med route that the US has, where you have 4 years of pre-med, and then you apply for their courses in medicine, which are usually very difficult for international students to access. And then you can, of course, specialize in community health. If you're talking about, public health systems via working with NGOs in that area, then you can probably study biomedicine, and you can study life sciences, neurosciences, microbiology, and then work in the, public health segment over there, not as a doctor, but as an allied medical worker. And that's sort of the information. We can research it more. Gautam says, could you please touch upon non-STEM courses for Canada? Kritika, do you want to take that one?
So do you what kind of courses especially do you mean? Business courses?
Business, psychology. I guess non-STEM courses in Canada will be business, psychology, design, and humanities, I guess. That would be the thing. So in my view on this is that, see, when it comes to job opportunities, Canada is a slower economy than the US, let's say, right? So it's a slow growing economy with like a 1.5% growth or so every year. So they themselves, when the immigration office themselves tells you that you are best off with STEM courses, right? So other than STEM, I would say Psychology is a good one because it has a lot of applications. Film and design are, again, there are areas that are expanding now, and in the online world particularly, and they have a lot of applications that you can look at. Business is another one where you can really get into a lot of fields, especially digital marketing or digital communication, like we were mentioning in the other thing, sales and marketing in general, human resources, probably with a lot of specialization in process and training, etc. You can get into a lot
Okay,
of...
they mean more humanities based. So maybe Piya would be better equipped to answer this.
Yeah, so humanities, and we are looking at history, literature, then I guess the struggle to find a job will be a little bit higher, because initially, pre-COVID, the non-STEM work opportunities were not really huge in Canada. So it takes, hanging around there for 6 to 8 months to sort of figure out a role. And you need to be fairly aggressive with meeting people and making that connect to be able to find a job there. And economics, I would say, would open you to marketing and business and finance. And, so that will give you easier opportunities, right? Yeah. So, but humanities, again, I think the other humanities subjects, the jobs are there, but it takes longer for you to really find them.
Yeah.
I hope I've answered.
And there are also a lot of variety of courses that you can pursue. For example, a lot of students as a part of their art degree also pursue courses like gender women's studies, anthropology, and history. So, that is also pretty much in demand, because I've seen 300, 400 people classes for those courses as well.
Right. Absolutely. Wonderful. Yeah. So academics in any case actually is a very, very huge area. Academic research in areas such as this is actually something that you can really look at, because that is an expanding area, particularly if you choose subjects that people have more and more interest in. Then education, of course, is an expanding area. And it's a beautiful area for people who are interested in research, who are looking at, sort of a more private, intense environment. It's really a wonderful career for you to look at. So, that's sort of like the overview we wanted to offer you across the 3 leading destinations, international destinations right now, which is US, Canada, and UK.
Yeah.
And
I would like to add something. As we were touching upon careers, I remember coming to Richa ma'am in my 11th standard and trying to figure out what I need to do with my life, which paths should I take. And I remember coming to both Richa ma'am and Kritika ma'am. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for the wonderful guidance that they've given me about not just the fields that I want to be a part of, but about so many different fields. Every step of the way, they've supported me. And I would really thank them that, the reason that I'm at UBCO doing well, a lot part of that share goes to them. So I'm so grateful to you, ma'am, both of you. So thank you so much for being a part of my wonderful journey at UBC.
Thank you so much, Piya. That's really nice to hear. And, I know, Piya is one of the most passionate students that we've worked with. Even now, when we have students who are applying for psychology or who are applying to UBC, Piya is always there to say, okay, I'll mentor them, I'll talk to them. And she brings so much passion and intensity with her. Thank you so much, Piya. It's been really a wonderful pleasure both working with you. And I'm so glad we could connect for this session today. Thanks a lot.
I'm so glad as well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So guys, we have sort of covered the basic material that we wanted to cover. This is a little bit about what we do. We do work with students across college counseling as well as career counseling. Our work typically, while this is a sort of a view of the timeline of years that we work with students, and while we do have a program called Head Start for grade 8th and 9th, frankly, we find that the best work is done with students once they come into class 10, because then they actually tune into what they want to do. So that's really a very relevant time for students to join. So I would say that, what we offer in grades 10, 11, and 12 for students as a beginning, and this we offer for every student, is a sort of a visioning session roughly what Piya is also talking about, where we had met her first, of helping you figure out what it is that you would really want to do. So, firstly to understand the options. There are 70, 80 viable options for you today. And we run a 3-hour program with a one-to-one program with the student, trying to help them figure out what are the opportunities available, what are their strengths, what would suit their personality, and then build a flexible career plan where we have a recommended option, a backup option, an alternative option, and long-term option. So you've got a path that you can look at now, and then give them options on projects that they can do, internships, research, study, etc. Next step would be for you to work on the college ready journey, which is, you can either choose to look at universities abroad, or we also intensely work with students applying to India. India is really growing in terms of high quality colleges available here. So we help students apply to liberal arts colleges like Ashoka, Kriya, Flame, Christ, and a lot of the leading colleges here, as well as BBA and business colleges. So that's sort of roughly an overview of what we do and how we work. And we wanted to get some of the students who are looking today at what I should do next started off with this overview. So are there any questions here that I have not answered? I'd be happy to look at that, or any of us would be happy to answer those. One new message.
Somebody's asking if we do admissions with Plaksha, for Plaksha.
Yes, so actually we know the Plaksha team very well, and we'd recently done a webinar with them just even before they had launched their admission process on helping you understand stuff. So what Plaksha has very beautifully apart is interdisciplinary STEM courses, which is both their robotics and AI course, and then they have a cyber systems and cyber security course. What I really like is the fact that they've combined data analytics and economics and finance into one single course, which is also fantastic for students who are not necessarily looking at high-tech STEM like engineering and computer science, but are looking more at the data science and finance area. That interdisciplinary course really sounds wonderful. This year they've got their first batch joining them, and they've really been very flexible with their admissions processes as well, because earlier they were looking at only JEE or SAT, but now they're just looking at 12 board marks as well. So I would really highly encourage you to join. And yes, we are working with students applying for Plaksha this year, Anjali. All right, so thanks very much. Simran will be sharing with you a link for a recording of this session. And further, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. Our team will also reach out to you for feedback and any further questions that you have. There is a question over here, which is that for your Pathfinder services, what are your fees for a student in first year junior college in Mumbai? If I were to enroll from grade 11 getting into uni, what would that look like? Richi, in terms of fee, our Pathfinder program, which is that 3.5-hour long one-to-one program that we do with students on figuring out their career journey, is 18,500 plus taxes. It includes the session and a very detailed report and a follow-up session that we reach out to you for. And subsequently, if you have any follow-up questions, we are open to that. And I do have students reaching back to me even while they're working sometimes, or when they're in college, saying, should I choose this or should I choose that? So all of that is, part of that Pathfinder session. As far as your if you were to enroll from grade 11, that's a more customized journey. So we'll really need to understand which universities you're applying for, what are you exactly looking for, and we could customize that program for you. Program costs would start for a grade 11 student somewhere around 95,000, including the Pathfinder with taxes, going ahead to I think up to about 3.5 to 4 lakhs, depending, if you're looking at US, Canada, UK, etc., across a 2-year period. So it really depends on what you're looking for, and we'll be happy to customize and build the journey for you. So that's,
we can put I can put my colleague Poonam's number here for anybody who has queries, right?
Yes, we can also, yeah, that's a good idea. Please put that over here in the chat. That'll be wonderful.
And thank you, Piya. You were always a very motivated student, so a lot of the credit goes to you.
That's true. Yes, Kritika. Thanks. You're on mute, so we don't know what.
Yes. Okay, so I was saying that the credit for me being motivated is because I had such great mentors. You know, you always told me that you made me believe in myself to a large extent, and that belief, that assurance from you actually helped me believe in myself. And yeah, I think the credit goes to you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Such a humble chat. Thanks a lot, Piya. Answering your question, Aditya, how would you rate Plaksha versus Price and NMIMS for economics? So, I'm actually, I would be biased towards Plaksha. I've worked very closely with the Ashoka team when Ashoka was set up, and uh, Vineet Gupta and a large part of the founders of Plaksha are also, co-founders of Ashoka. So I know they bring with them that same ethic and culture and the understanding that academics is king, getting the best people as far as academics is concerned, like Ashoka does, investing a lot in students' professional development and placement, like Ashoka does. I'm very close to the founders of Plaksha, and I've really understood their vision and their commitment to it. So I would really think that Plaksha is poised to be really one of the leading STEM universities in our country, and we don't have anything like that yet. So for economics, I would say between the three, if a student would get through all three, I would say Plaksha. Also because that course is so beautifully interdisciplinary, so it's not just an economics course, it's data science, finance, and economics, which is what the world needs. So it's really the order of the day, I would say. Plaksha eligibility is more into academics or SAT or others. So you can just apply with your grade 12 board marks this year. Every college is very, very flexible to allow you that. So you can just apply with your grade 12 board marks. All right, guys, thank you very much.